We live in a fantasy world now. Reality has been destroyed.
This is the time that you really need to pay attention.
The probabilities are overwhelmingly on gold's side. That is the best environment to see gold increase its value.
Welcome to Palisade's Gold Radio. I'm your host, Tom Bodrovics. Joining me today is Dave Collum, Professor of Organic Chemistry at Cornell and Market Commentator. How are you, Dave?
I'm good. I got to get my Zoom image back up. There we go. I'm doing fine. We had a lovely chat prior to this post. Hope we have something left.
Yeah. Well, that's why I always look forward to getting to sit down and have a discussion with you, is because there's never a lack of interesting topics that we can cover. But I want to start with kind of getting your overall feeling at this point in time. You know, we're recording this on October 16th. We're about 3 weeks away from the election. So what are the biggest things, let's say, on your mind as we go into this election? I ask this question in that way because you're so good at looking at things from this 35,000 foot level and then kind of digging in and trying to understand little tidbits here and there.
Some psychologist once said that to me. You know, it's almost like you quoted him. 35,000 feet, then drop down to ground level, take a look, and then go back up to 35,000 feet.
It's almost like I did my research.
Yeah, it's almost like you did your research. Yeah, that's an interesting point. Well, I don't think the election, in the long term, it might not be even that relevant, although Trump versus Harris, if Trump exceeds expectations and Harris exceeds them to the downside, that's a pretty big gap. Mm-hmm. Biden showed us that the presidency is a figurehead position, or can be. I think it's an extremely risky state of being when the president doesn't have strength of conviction and will, and because there are times where you need one guy who says, "Look, history's going to read this for many years. I got to get this one right." And I don't think Harris understands that idea. I think she's compass free. I think she's really. Where someone like Hillary, who I think was a sociopath, still is, but she certainly would have an understanding of her role in history and how when something got really important, she might say that this is where I have to get it right. I just don't think Harris has that. Trump has that, but you know, the anti-Trumpers could say, yeah, but he's a hip shooter and he scares the shit out of me. And I'm sympathetic to that view. Mm-hmm. I much rather have Trump than Harris by a country mile. I think he's matured. I think he knows where the spoons and forks are. I think it's going to be chaotic for the next 3 weeks. You got to figure they've saved the best ammo till the end. And so I think things like, you know, Waltz's pedophilia accusations could thicken up pretty fast or something, you know, things like that. Waltz does strike me as creepy. So I think that the chance of him actually having skeletons in the closet are real. You say, does it matter? I go, I think at some point people are sick and tired of truly soulless, and I'm not religious, but soulless, absolutely morally unguided people running their lives. And so I think that it would matter. And, the P. Diddy story is fun to watch, you know, so that could blow up and you say, well, they put Epstein away. And I go, yeah, but P. Diddy's parties weren't. Epstein ran a very tight operation. Right. I mean, he really ran a tight ship and it still leaked out. But P. Diddy ran drunken orgies with lots of drugs. So they could put all of the people of importance away and there's still just hundreds of victims who are ready to come out of the shadows and say, yeah, they did it to me too. So the election, I think, there'll be some violence. I'm already seeing shit on TV about how the elections are fair and honest. And I'm going, no, they're not. I don't see how you can believe that with all the wholesale mailing of ballots and stuff. It's perfect. They could have reconstructed the elections to be believable. Given the January 6th problem, they could have said, okay, you know, if they were honest people, they would have said, okay, we've got to tighten down this election process because the people don't believe it anymore. And they did the opposite, right? They've made us less confident, not more. Whoever's team doesn't win is going to think it was rigged. Mm-hmm. I personally think Trump would win it in a landslide if it wasn't rigged. I really think Harris's campaign is lackluster, content-free. I don't know if she's stupid, but she lacks the normal kind of intellect. She has kind of a street sense, maybe. Maybe her fraudulent delivery is a kind of an intellect. But she sure as hell can't, like when her teleprompter broke the other day, and she could not function without it. Yeah. We could all ad lib, no teleprompter. We could all do it, right? Anyone who's done a couple of podcasts could do it. And she could not do it. She was unable to function. So that argues for stupidity. Mm-hmm. The fact that the Democratic Party has been so incapable of putting forth candidates for 2 cycles now. If I were a Democrat, which fortunately is not true, I'd be so upset with my party. I'd say, look, there are a tremendous number of qualified Democrats out there. You could have had Tulsi Gabbard. You could have Bobby Kennedy. We know why they don't pick him, right? That's easy. But there's other Democrats out there who are not sacks of shit, but they chose the sacks of shit. Mm-hmm. And the question I like to ask is, back when Tulsi Gabbard took Harris down to the studs in 2 minutes on the stage in I think it was the Iowa caucuses or something. And Harris was done. She was finished. Joe Biden was on the far left, which meant he was a post-it at best, right? He was a post-it to make it look like there was an adult in the room somewhere. If you had asked the Vegas odds makers, where do you draw the pay line for a Harris-Biden administration, you would have said 1,000 to 1, right? There was no chance. Mm-hmm. Harris quit the next day, blah, 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 and all of a sudden, next thing you know, the 2 biggest idiots on stage formed a ticket. And I think it shows you sort of the garishness of the political system. I think it shows you that they no longer care that whether we know they're up to no good. And there's famous statements made by former victims of Soviet aggression. I'm not talking about Ukraine, but people who lived in the Soviet Union. And who said, we knew we were being lied to. The Americans seem to be oblivious. They don't seem to realize that they're getting propaganda too. And I think there's truth in that. I think we somehow think that, I don't know how you could think this, but that Meek and Joe are telling the truth. How would you ever ponder that? Joy Reid, I don't know. But Fox News too, right? So the election is underscoring kind of a moral decay, I think. Mm-hmm. And that's not good, right? Back in 2000, during the dot-com boom, there was no sense of moral decay, right? We actually thought the world was changing and that we had done miraculous things as a society. And now it just feels like markets are at an all-time high. People are angry at everybody. As I like to say, in all the past market highs, and this is certainly near a high, put it this way, it's a lot closer to a high than a low. Mm-hmm. Never have people been grumpy. Market highs are euphoric. And everyone thinks, blue skies, everyone's going to own a house in 2007. Everyone, poor people, yeah, we can all own houses, as Oprah say, free cars for everyone. And in 2000, again, euphoria. 67 euphoria. And these were all euphoric periods right before very bad streaks. And so the question then becomes is if everyone's grumpier than shit, and then they lose more than half of their retirement account, how are they going to be doing? Mm-hmm. Right? And the answer is not good.
This podcast is for general informational purposes only. Nothing on this podcast should be taken as investment advice. Guests on this show are not compensated for their appearance. Listeners are urged to educate themselves and make their own decisions. Do not base any investment decisions on the information contained. To view our full disclaimer, please visit our website.